Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Euphoric, the podcast. And I'm here with Dupe on the other side of the pond, who has an incredible alcohol-free story and just released a new book, which I'm so excited to talk about. But tell us, Dupe, how are you doing today?
I'm really well. Thank you, Karolina. Thank you so much for having me on the show. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very good. I know our roads connected maybe a year or year and a half ago or so as you've become a coach yourself and now released a book into the world. So I can't wait to ask all those questions. But first, I'd love to paint a little picture. Tell us a little bit about your story and, how your professional life kind of groomed you into a relationship with alcohol. And then how did that kind of clear and what's been opening up for you? So wherever you want to start, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Wow, gosh, okay, fantastic. So I think like everybody, alcohol is ingrained in the UK. I'm from the UK. So in the UK society, it's something that is a rite of passage in a way to being an adult. And when you go to university, we have something called Freshers Week, which is like the first week of university. I'm sure you have something similar in college in the US. And that's probably when I was really introduced to alcohol, and it sort of went from there. And, fun, lots of fun, you're coming of age and it's just loads of fun. And then I went into the corporate world, and in the corporate world, again, I think I was working in quite a heavily sort of male dominated environment. I did lots of client dinners and networking and business travel and all of that. And that seemed to revolve around drinking and networking, and you always had to have a glass of wine in your hand. And so I think, for me, it was just something that I would consider normal for the environment I was in. But yeah, just, I suppose, drinking normally. And then I would say I had a couple of episodes where I felt like my drinking probably went up a little bit. And that was one when my brother passed away unexpectedly from an illness. And I found myself obviously being the eldest, trying to sort of comfort my parents and keep everything going, keep everyone afloat, and just, yeah, it was a fairly traumatic time. And so I found that, having a glass at the end of the day was a way of just sort of decompressing and going, got through another day. And so that was that. So probably went up a little bit then. And then I became a mummy in my 30s, and the whole mummy culture was another thing here. And I don't know if you have it in the US as well, but there's this whole mummy wine culture, wine o'clock, and you end up, you go to play dates and various things, and, you have a glass. And so wine and gin and, alcohol in general had been just there in the background. And then it got to, I stopped drinking. I decided to stop drinking for 21 days in November 2020. But prior to that, I knew I wasn't enjoying alcohol. So just before COVID hit, which was sort of March 2020, I know the previous year I was very much going off heavy red wines, which I used to drink a lot of, didn't like them. So I thought, well, I know what, I'll have light red wines instead, because that's going to be better for me. And then I realized I didn't really enjoy that either. So then I thought, okay, why not? Why? The thought did not occur to me, I don't think, that actually maybe I should stop. But because why would you stop? Why would you not drink? And so, then it ended up being, okay, gin and tonics and a glass of champagne were the things that I could probably stomach. But again, it was sort of out of habit as opposed to really enjoying it. So I had a massive life experience in March 2020, just before the world changed. I climbed Kilimanjaro, and I think that probably instigated a lot of this without me knowing. And there was, it took a while between then and November for me to stop. But maybe at that point, having done something which was quite epic, really, and not many people do it, I had this sense of, I want to do more. I want to make an impact. I felt like I could conquer the world. It was one of those trips that was life-changing. But then ironically, as soon as I got back to the hotel, having not drunk for 6 days and been in, camping and all of that on the mountain, the first thing I thought was, oh, I need a glass of champagne to celebrate. And, you know, it's like, what, why did I need that? But again, you know, habit, I think, and when you celebrate, when you commiserate, everything in between, you know, you tend to have a glass. And so I got to November 2020 and thought, I'm going to stop, because I kept getting this sense, you talk about it a lot, Karolina, you know, in terms of your intuition and listening to those nudges or the knowing, and I think for me, I just got this sense that actually maybe I should just at least stop for 21 days and see what happens. And so that's what I did. And actually those 21 days have now been way over nearly 3 years. So, you know, it's amazing that life's changed a lot. And I'm really pleased that I went down this journey.
Wow. Well, I love those stories with like a very clear, you know, like I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, you know, and you have this kind of awakening, and it still takes a little time to like get there, but it's so incredible how we really are being guided and getting these intuitive hits, like you mentioned. And it's just so beautiful to be the type of person who honors that and listens to those things, you know. And I can't wait to dive more into your alcohol-free story and all the incredible like roads and dreams that have popped up since then. But I want to go back a little bit, you know. We're in my coaching certification right now, in the group that's running for 9 months, getting certifying as coaches. We just finished our lesson on really like the socialization, the culturalization, and or the conditioning we get from alcohol. And it's such a fascinating thing because, like, you know, when we look at traditional paradigms with this very black and white, you know, you're either a normal drinker or you're not type of a thing, that was never really factored on like how much conditioning we really get around alcohol. And I'm so curious, you know, from that professional corporate world, like kind of what things were taught and or implied almost about the success of your career based on you being able to drink and schmooze with clients. Like, do you remember some of those like memories or just like the culture of the organization that kind of made really that as a standing point of like, this is how we do it type of a thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I said, I think working in the city, it's almost a given that you would have a drink after work. You know, it was really funny because I think probably about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and the younger generation, you know, millennials and alphas and everyone else, they've definitely learned a lot more than I did and our generation did. But someone said, can we do something without alcohol? Can we do a team event? Because obviously it just felt that was just the norm, right? That anything you did, you'd go out for a drink or you'd do something, but then it would then involve going to the bar or the pub or going for dinner and having a glass of wine. And so it was just always there. There was no real, I think it was just implied. And then you'd go to networking events or conferences, and at the end of it, then it was the red wine, the white wine, or warm orange juice. So you didn't really have a choice in terms of anything half decent to drink that wasn't alcohol, that didn't have alcohol in it. So I think all in all, it was just something that was constant. But I also remember being in a bar, and I think we were bored at the time, and we'd been there, you know, most of the evening. We'd been drinking and socializing, networking with people and clients and my colleagues, and then all the men went on to whiskey, and I felt like I needed to drink whiskey even though I couldn't stand it, just because everyone was drinking whiskey. And so again, I was torn there because I was like, I really can't, I don't like it. But again, you sort of, and it sounds so ridiculous now because I'm sure no one expected me to drink whiskey, but in a way I felt like I needed to do it to just fit in and to be seen as keeping up with the men, and, you know, and not wanting to be different, I suppose.
Wow, yeah. I mean, even the ways that it's just implied, right? That like when you see even people from the office that are doing it this way, then the road to success is like, well, then I must be doing it like that too, right? And so incredible how culture kind of permeates like that. Like they're not even stated rules, right? It's just this implicit understanding of this is the way we do it and the way we should follow. I just find it so fascinating. And, you know, add that to pub culture of the UK, you know, then, I mean, it's just like, that is literally the institution to, you know, connect with other people, which always obviously revolves around drinking too. And it's like, what do we expect is going to happen with all these kind of confluences of or a confluence of influences, right? To like, you know, make us so tied into a relationship with alcohol, adding our personal lives then too, the way alcohol works, you know, with grief and boredom and unfulfillment.
Exactly.
It's just so much we're standing up against.
It really is. And I think to finally break free from it, you look back and you just think, wow, it's like the scales have come off, you know, your eye, you can finally see that it's all just a mirage, actually. There isn't, you know, there aren't many benefits, any benefits, I don't think, but, you know, people can correct me, to drinking, but we are conditioned to do it and to feel that if you don't do it, and I was, you know, I was a classic person. If I met people who didn't drink, I was suspicious of them. I thought, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you drinking? And then I'd be the one that say, go on, have a drink, you know, you want one. And so you know, I've been there, I've done it, so I can't, you know, I've got the t-shirt and the rest of it, but I look back now and I do see that if for your listeners who are listening, you know, if you're curious about this and you're thinking, actually, I can't do something different, I can't step away, what would I do instead? I would say just try it. If you are really questioning it and you want to break free and see what's on the other side.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your story once you broke free in that November experiment you did. So what kind of happened next in your life over the next few months, years?
Yeah. So as I said, I stopped for 21 days and I thought, okay, I'll give myself this sort of 21 days. I had tried before to not drink for dry January or for Lent, or, you know, whatever was coming up, I'd say, okay, I'll not drink for that period of time. And that never really stuck. So after about a week, it got to sort of Thursday, and I was like, oh, I can drink on the weekends. That's absolutely fine, you know, and then I'll go back and not drink during the week. And then it became, well, actually, it's not just Saturday and Sunday, well, Friday night, yeah. And then before you know it, it's gone, you know, and you failed. And so why bother? So then you just carry on as normal. And this time around, I thought, if I can stop for 21 days, then I will moderate. At least I can prove to myself that I don't need to drink, and so I'll moderate. And during that time, some really, you can say intuition, you could say God, you can say whatever you want to say. I think it was the Holy Spirit guiding me and actually saying, you know, this is the path that you want to take. But there were things that happened. I discovered this whole alcohol-free community, an alcohol-free podcast. I realized that people chose, you know, to not drink and actually were enjoying life and had experienced all these things and were just raving about the pink cloud and all the, you know, all the things that had gone on and how amazing it was. But the one thing that really stuck with me, and I remember, is, as I've said, I enjoyed gin and tonic and probably champagne towards the end. And again, I don't really know how it came about, but I found I found an article that was talking about alcohol-free fizz. And I thought, okay. And then I saw the name of the fizz and had this memory that I had this in my cupboard. And I thought, no, I can't. And it's because someone had given us, so step back, in the summer of 2020, someone had come around for lunch and had brought a bottle of this alcohol-free fizz. And I remember looking at it and saying, what the hell are you giving me this for? Especially as they proceeded to drink my wine. You know, it wasn't like they were alcohol-free. And so I was very sort of ungracious probably, and took it and plugged it in the cupboard. So I was rummaging through the cupboard and there it was at the back of the cupboard. And I thought, oh my goodness. And I tried it on a girls' night out. Well, we were on a Zoom because we were obviously still in and out of lockdown at that time. And all the girls were having obviously proper fizz. And I poured this and I had it and I was expecting it to be awful, and tasted it and thought, gosh, this is actually quite nice. And then obviously the next day woke up feeling absolutely fine. And I thought, if there is, you know, everyone's saying this is amazing, I'm listening to things and everyone's saying it's fantastic. I decided to buy a book, which I hadn't started reading, but I bought the book, I had it there, and it was talking about joy and all the things that you can get from, you know, being alcohol free. And I thought, why wouldn't you try this for a bit longer? And so I did. And then I said, okay, I'll do it for 30 days. And then Christmas was coming and New Year's, and I was convinced there was no way I couldn't drink over Christmas and New Year's, and got through that. And then I created a vision board, and I did all these things that were completely out of character for me. And gave me focus and gave me life and just joy and walking in nature and doing things. And then I decided to be a coach. I decided that I was thinking about all the things, what would I like to do in life? And I remember coaching was something that I just really enjoy doing at work. I coach people at work, and I did a few coaching courses, but never really anything official. And then again, something happened where I put a picture on my vision board of someone leaping over a mountain range, as it were. And then I discovered a coaching program. The picture was the exact same picture. And it was all, looking back, it was all obviously being guided, or I don't know what it was, but it wasn't coincidence, let's say. And so then ended up signing up to become a transformational coach and qualified as a coach. I also at the time had been going back and forth with where I was working at the time and not feeling completely happy. Some things happened, and whereas I would normally just swallow them and say, okay, it's fine, I'll stick it out, don't have the confidence, I'd been there for a long time, don't have the confidence to move. This time around I was like, actually, I'm worth more. I can do this. I've got a network. I can sort of try and just put myself out there. And so then I got a new role, and so loads of things this was all within probably 6 months or so. And so it was amazing and I was thinking, well, why would I go back if I'm seeing all these changes happen? And of course, life happens, and it's not all beer and skittles, or whatever the phrase is, but I think being alcohol free gives you the tools to cope with anything in life. And so not necessarily all the highs, but also the lows. And for me, self-care has become really important. Having an alcohol-free toolkit has become, was really important, especially early days, but a lot of things have just become my daily routines and my habits, and have kept me going. So yeah, and here I am. But yeah, over the years, so much has happened. I could keep going, Karolina, but that's just a little a little bit about what I've done since being alcohol-free.
Well, that's honestly my favorite part. And I almost think that the universe gives us this challenge of alcohol that we're meant to transform through, because it's like the vehicle that really helps us unleash that deeper purpose that we have in our lives, right? So you have this desire to coach, and you find yourself doing it well in your work. But if it wasn't for going alcohol free, right, it like gave you the impetus to really go for it. And same thing now with writing a book, right? Like it gave you the impetus to do that as well. So it's like, it's one of, I think, the most incredible problems we could have, because it's like the solution and the transformation on the other side. Like if we didn't go through that, we wouldn't have those incredible gifts on the other side, right? And that's why, to me, obviously you can achieve dreams, you can write books, you can get promotions, you could launch businesses without, quitting alcohol or ditching alcohol. But to me, I think it's like the fastest road there, because of all the things that happen. Like everything gets on just hyper speed at, the way, like you say, you take care of yourself, your priorities, what you want to focus on, and you have that confidence that really you can go after what you want. So literally the reason why I'm so obsessed with sharing this message is these dreams that come out of it. So let's now talk a little bit about that. Obviously you're a coach, incredible big congratulations for you on following that dream, working with women to help them change their relationship with alcohol. And you've just recently published a book, so I can't wait to hear more about that. I've got my copy. Tell us a little bit about your book. What do you share in your book, and where can people learn more about it?
Yeah, thank you, Karolina. Yeah, and the book again, I look back and I think, how have I managed to do this as well? But it was on my list of things to do. And yeah, again, I think you just get so much space and time. And time, I think, is a key thing. And as you say, being able to prioritize. So my book is called A Cocktail of Clarity. And it's basically a cocktail of clarity: how to ditch drinking, embody a joyful new identity, and thrive alcohol free. And so it really takes you on a journey. It starts out with sort of ditching drinking part. So talks about, you know, are you really being served? Is alcohol serving you? And then goes through, you know, what alcohol is, what alcohol isn't. And I think we're all manipulated potentially into thinking it's something that it really isn't, and it gives us more than it does. And then it goes into sort of how to actually go about ditching drinking. And then moves on to your first. So how do you navigate social situations, relationships? How do you really start to think about passions and hobbies and what you like? And I think one of the things I find, and you know, clients find, and people I know who've stopped drinking have found as well, is we don't really know what we want when we're drinking, or we don't allow ourselves to dream. And I love the fact that you know, as a non-drinker, you get your sleep's just heightened. It's brilliant. And REM sleep, you get so much of that, and this is sort of your deep sleep where you dream. And so I always literally think, you know, by ditching alcohol you can dream again, which I love. And so people start to dream again. I think you go back and you start reflecting on, if you don't know what your passions are, you reflect on what you liked as a child, what you liked doing as a teenager maybe, or before you started drinking, and or what you really would want to do, and then you feel like you can go after it. So I talk about passions and hobbies, and then creating routines and habits, and you know, and how that could, what that could look like. And throughout, I'm constantly at the end of each chapter asking questions, and I thought there's an action for people to take, and a cocktail of clarity concept as well, which I add at the end of each chapter. And then the last part is really freedom. And so what, you know, how to find lasting joy in all areas of your life. And that goes into managing emotions, thinking about your values, and then really having a vision, and what is your big vision, and what would be the reason for you to stop. So I'd like to think that the book is for, you know, for anyone who's curious, but also people that are already on the alcohol-free journey, and hopefully they'll find something in there that helps them. So that's a summary.
Amazing. Well, we'll definitely include a link to the book in the show notes. So
Thank
big congratulations again. And
you.
I loved, you know, just how you summarized that point of, you know, how cool even that analogy of like maybe that REM dreaming space is like part of what we need to be able to have that vision. And, you know, I think for me, Dupe, like I think I might have known a little bit of what I wanted, but I was not honest with myself. Like it was just such a pipe dream that it was like, well, what's the point of even saying it out loud or writing it down or doing anything? All of that's impossible. And I think something that's so cool, not only when you go alcohol free, but like right now in 2023, so much more is possible for us than was even 20 years ago, and definitely 50, 100 years ago for our grandmothers and our parents and all that stuff. And so like we just don't know what we don't know, you know what I mean? And there's like nothing more brave than the person who's willing to try and willing to do things differently and willing to kind of take a leap of faith into what they want, right? And just having the belief that when you commit to something wholeheartedly, it will work out for you, you know? Again, I think beginning something new, I think being a beginner, I think trying anything, all of those things are such admirable qualities because it's really comfortable to not have to try something new, right? You never leave your comfort zone. You're like already the expert in whatever you're doing, the status quo, you know, and going out there for your dreams and or ditching alcohol. I think it's just one of the bravest things you could possibly do. So thank you so much for sharing that story with us. And obviously the book will be linked in the show notes. If you could leave us with a little wisdom, like if you could just go back to that version of you who just climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, what would you say to her?
That you can absolutely dream big and go after your dreams. And I think to your point, I don't know if I believe, or I thought I had a path. I thought I knew the path, and I thought that was it. And I really think we hold ourselves back, and it's not that we're holding ourselves back, alcohol's holding us back. And so one of the things that I would say is go after your dreams, don't hold yourself back, and believe bigger. That would be it. So,
Oh,
yeah.
I love it so much. Awesome. Well, tell us where people can find you, your website. I will also link that in the show notes.
Perfect. And I'd also love to give your listeners something as well. So I have a free gift, which is chapter 1 of the book, which you can read for free. And it's not, you don't get that inside, the look inside on Amazon. So you get more of the book than you would normally get. So I'd love listeners to go to my website, thrivealcoholfree.com/a cocktail of clarity book, and they'll be able to get that there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the free gift, but a very gracious thing to do. I will include that in the show notes and so everyone can get it. Thank you so much, Dupe. It's such a pleasure to connect with you again, hear your story. And, I just am so admiring what this incredible alcohol-free journey has given to you. And now you're able to share that message back with, your community and your peers. And just, we are literally creating so many ripple effects in the world, and it really starts with each and one of us. And to any listener who's kind of starting to believe, but still doubting themselves, like I know how much role models really helped me to see what was possible, and Dupe is such an incredible role model that you can use as another example of really what you can do in this alcohol-free lifestyle. So thank you so much for being on the show.
And thank you, Karolina, for all you do. I am just honoured to be on this podcast. I love it. I still listen to many of your episodes. I think, I think you're wonderful, and what you're doing is absolutely amazing and inspiring. And you inspire me, and you inspire so many, many others. So thank you very much as well.
Thank you. Women empowering women together.